Revenge films.
Even before our marriage, my parents-in-law would say to move in with them, send them money, and to help with the housework. We lived separately but nearby. My husband also had a mild mother complex and tended to take her side. So when I complained,
Mom has good intentions. She's struggling too, so go easy on her.
he wasn't any help at all. But back then, I was still managing by to keep a distance from them. But 3 years ago, my mother passed away because of cancer. At her funeral, my mother-in-law said something unbelievable.
Now that your parents are gone, you can come over anytime you'd like. We're the only parents left for you to look after, so you better care for us a lot.
That's what she said. And she even looked happy when she said it. My husband and father-in-law nodded in agreement. My blood was boiling, and I was very mad. But I didn't want to cause a scene at my mother's funeral, so I tried my best to hold it in. My son in 10th grade and my daughter in 8th grade, as well as my sister and his husband, were also trembling with anger. But we all held it in and prayed for our mother. 2 weeks after my mother's funeral, my big sister called and told me that a lawyer who was an old friend of our past father visited her. He said that our mother asked him to hold on to her will after she was diagnosed with cancer. And along with my sister and her husband, my husband and I met up with the lawyer. They said it was that she wanted my sister and I to divide the inheritance equally. And the content was just ordinary. But when we heard the amount of the inheritance, both of us thought we'd faint out of our surprise. It turns out that there were no more than 9 digits of savings and government bonds exclusively the land and the house we own. Our family wasn't a millionaire and was just an ordinary household with our parents both working as office workers. And we were never short of money, but it's not like we lived in a luxurious lifestyle. My parents' house was an ordinary house, and it was just the right size for a family of 4. So we really had no idea why there was so much for us to inherit, as if we won the lottery. And we were confused. Then the lawyer told us the reason. My parents had been saving up little by little since they got married, and they didn't dare to use any of their retirement money as well as the insurance money we received after my father's death. They had left everything for us to use. My sister and my husband said,
We don't have children, and we don't plan to have any in the future considering our age. I want my sister who has children to inherit everything on my behalf.
That's what they said, but there was no way I can accept that. It's true, they didn't have any children, but if they receive the inheritance, they'll be able to go on trips together and even get an early retirement and have a relaxed life after retirement. Most importantly, my mother had been saving up for both of us. So I told her that rejecting the inheritance would hurt our mother's feelings as well. Then my sister and her husband finally gave in and said,
Okay, I guess I should consider her feelings more. I'll receive the inheritance.
That's what she said, and I wasn't relieved. We also received a great amount of inheritance, so I thought it all ended well. But after this incident, my household started collapsing. Apparently, my husband, who heard from the lawyer that we would be receiving a lot of money, got really excited and told his parents about it without even asking me. But when I told him that my mother's inheritance was none of his nor his parents' business, because it would be my personal asset,
Your money is also my money.
and he slapped my face.
You rejected your sister's offer, so we ended up getting less. You better provide my parents with financial support.
He suddenly became a very violent husband. My children, who saw him acting this way, desperately begged me to get a divorce, as they cried, but my husband refused. I could have ran away to a shelter because of the domestic violence. But reflecting on how they've been abusing me and how my husband and his parents behaved at my mother's funeral, dark emotions emerged within me, and I decided to get revenge on them. Since then, I would give my husband and his parents money whenever they asked for it, and they used it in an extravagant manner. However, the money wasn't from my mother's inheritance, and it was rather from our savings we've been making for the past 19 years of marriage. My husband believed that he can rely on the inheritance, so he would skip work and play around, causing him to get fired. And his parents believed that I was thinking of moving in with them after renovating my parents' house, So they even mortgaged their own house to borrow money and spent them lavishly. By the way, we had saved around $10 million for the past 19 years, with both of us working a full-time job. And although it was nothing compared to what my mother left for us to inherit, they managed to use up half the amount in 6 months. His parents also used up all the money they borrowed after mortgaging their house, and they happily requested that they wanted to move in with us as soon as possible. So I called the lawyer who was in charge of my mother's will to come over and ask for a divorce. My husband and his parents said,
You deceived us! It's a fraud! We'll never get a divorce. Devote yourself to us for the rest of your life!
They were making a fuss, but the lawyer stated that we had medical certificate as evidence of domestic violence, the record of his extravagant spending, and the fact that he didn't work nor did the housework, which means he wasn't fulfilling his responsibilities.
In this case, your wife could even ask for compensation money. If you're not going to agree to a divorce, we'll have to ask you to pay a decent amount of compensation money. But is that okay?
He calmly mentioned, and my husband as well, as his parents started to go pale. My husband suddenly went on his knees.
I want us to start over! Don't dump me!
He tried to make me sympathetic using his tears, but I obviously ignored him. My love for him was long gone, so I said, Quickly, sign the papers for me. I coldly told my husband, who was making a fuss like a little kid, I bet it was so much fun this year. Punching your wife whenever you wanted to, not working and using up all the money. How fun is that? You lived your dream life, so it's time for you to wake up. I hate you and your parents so much. It makes me nauseous just to see your face. Sign the papers for me now, I firmly said, and seeing my attitude, my husband finally gave up and signed the papers. My mother-in-law was still making a fuss and insulting me nonstop. I thought you mortgaged your house. I bet it's gonna be so hard for you from now on. Your son is jobless and we still have a loan to pay for our house. I won't ask for compensation, but in return, I'll withdraw from the payment of the loan, okay? The land and the house, as well as the loan, are all under my husband's name anyways. When I said that, they finally seemed to understand their own situation. While my parents-in-law were too stunned, my lawyer and I smiled widely, packed up our things, and headed out. After that, we promised that they'll only contact me through my lawyer, but I didn't ask him what happened to them. But apparently, he received a call from my ex-husband asking help to get a remarriage with me, but I told him to ignore the calls. What awaited them after that was basically hell. They had no money, nor a job. I heard my ex-husband is desperately looking for a job, but considering the stagnating economy, it's definitely difficult to find a new job. And I secretly told one of the office workers who worked at the same company as my husband that I got a divorce because of his problematic actions. So I bet everyone around him views him as a different person now. I had always informed my children, who always wanted me to get a divorce, about my plan a while ago. And after the period, I asked my sister and her family to take a look after them on my behalf. I knew it was going to be a negative influence on them. My sister and his husband always adored my children since they were small, so they were happy to take them under their care. And after everything was done, I initially planned to live in a mansion with my children. But my sister and his husband look like they'll miss them badly. So we discussed and decided to rent a house that we can all live together. My sister wasn't able to give birth because she was infertile. So she begged her husband to get a divorce with her many times. But he firmly refused, and they decided to support each other as a family of two for the rest of their lives. For the two of them, my daughter and son are so important and very adorable. So my brother-in-law would teach many things to my son, and my son also liked him a lot. My daughter, who was in middle school, often learned how to bake for my sister, who was a great cook. I'm glad to see them happy. Our new house had enough rooms for my children, me, my sister, and her husband. I won't have to feel lonely, even if my children grow up and move out for 5 or 6 years later. And when they come home after becoming adults, we won't miss each other too much because it'll be easy for all of us to gather. I honestly never thought this would happen because of my mother's inheritance. But my parents-in-law always had a lot of problematic aspects, and my husband had a mother complex. So, now I'm glad that things turned out this way.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.